I brought the birthday cake to my mother's party and left before it was even placed on the table. My name is Thin, 35 years old, a civil engineer living in Queenan. I don't smoke, rarely drink, have never fought anyone. And if someone asked what I'm most proud of, it would probably be the fact that I haven't owed a single person any money in the past 10 years of working. And perhaps that's the only reason I've been able to exist quietly within my family. My family lives in a small fishing village called Baidua, by the sea, about 30 kilometers from the city. There lives my mother, Mrs. Hong, and my two siblings, Hai, the son who was always pampered, and Vi, my charming, sharp-tongued sister who's far more outspoken than me. The three of them live in a three-room house I built with my savings 7 years ago. I don't live there. After my divorce, I chose to rent a small place near my construction site for convenience. I'm not a bad son. I send money to my mother every month, $3 million for utilities, $2 million for medicine. When Vi gave birth, I paid the preschool fees for her child for 2 whole years. When Hai lost money in a failed savings club, I quietly covered $60 million without ever asking for it back. But I was never mentioned. Finn? He's probably too busy. Rarely comes home. He lives in the city now, always talking in complicated ways. Divorced men like that? Just don't count them. I heard it all, but I didn't react. I thought, as long as I could help, it was enough. I didn't need acknowledgement. I didn't need gratitude. Then my mother turned 70. I wanted to throw a big party. Hai immediately agreed. This time we have to go big, video, photos, rent a restaurant. I was called down to meet them at our usual coffee shop. Brother Thin, you're the one good with money stuff. Can you front the cost for now? We'll split it after the party. I nodded. Like always. I ordered the cake. 2 tiers, buttercream, strawberry mousse filling, exactly the kind my mother liked. Paid the restaurant deposit. Sent advance payment to the decorators. Secretly paid for the videographer too. The total was 46.3 million VND. My monthly salary at the time was 15 million. That day, I wore a white shirt, khaki pants, rode my motorbike to the restaurant at 6:45 p.m., carrying the cake. I thought my mother would be happy. But as soon as I stepped in, I heard Vi's loud voice. Oh, the big spender is here. Our family's walking wallet has arrived, everyone. Laughter erupted from a few relatives in the back. Hai raised his glass as if to toast. To the one who gives the most, but is always invisible. I froze in the doorway, cake in hand, sweat trickling down my neck. My mother walked over, whispered, Finn, don't make a scene. I'm tired. Today is a happy day. I said nothing. I turned, walked straight to the reception desk. I told the staff, cancel all the payments I made. Send me the receipts. I'll handle it later. I didn't wait for a response. I just left, as quietly as I came. That night, I sat alone by the beach. My phone buzzed nonstop. I didn't answer. I just watched the waves, thinking about the past 10 years, and realized no one had ever asked me if I was happy. The next morning, I woke up later than usual. Messages still poured in. Some scolding, some asking, some pleading. I read them all. Didn't reply. Then I began to write. Not texts. Letters. I wrote one to my mother. One to Vi. One to Hai. Each letter came with a detailed list of everything I'd paid over the past 8 years. Electricity, medicine, school fees, loan repayments, even a pack of diapers for Vi's child. Total, 1.28 billion VND. I didn't write to demand repayment. I wrote so they'd know. And so I would too, that I had been there. I printed 3 copies, sent them express to Baidua. The following week, everything changed faster than I expected. Vi called, her voice sharp. What the hell are you doing? You're not paying for daycare anymore. They just refused to keep the kid. I stayed silent. Hai texted, the old savings club guy is threatening again. What are you going to do? Still, I didn't respond. My mother, the one who used to message me every time her back ached asking for medicine money, now sent a single line, I'm disappointed in you. I read it, then deleted it. 3 weeks later, I got a call from the receptionist at the restaurant. Mr. Thin, someone claiming to be your sister, named Vi, tried to rebook the party using your name. But the card was declined. I simply said, I'm not involved. Don't accept the booking. I began cleaning. My tiny rented room was stacked with paperwork. I opened each folder, took photos, and created a Google Drive folder titled Family, Expense Details. Then I shared it with every relative who had attended the party. Alongside it was a single message. I don't want an apology. I just want to be seen. I expected a storm after that file went out, but I didn't think it'd be this big. A week after the folder was shared, I received a message from a cousin, the same one who once made me drive her to the hospital when her husband was sick, but never said thank you. Her first message in 4 years. So you've had enough, huh? Then my uncle messaged, you did the right thing. But don't cut us off entirely. Text from Vi, from Hi. From my mother, still no apologies, just questions. So what now? Can you reopen the support? Everyone's in a mess. I said nothing. For the first time in my life, I saw my silence make others uneasy. The second Sunday after everything collapsed, I received an invitation. A family dinner. At Hi's house. The subject, let's talk again. I read it over and over. My name wasn't mentioned. There was no apology. Just the phrase, everyone will be there. I decided to go. I wanted to know if they had truly learned anything. I arrived at exactly 6 p.m., still in a plain white shirt and slacks. Neat, but nothing new. The house was full of familiar relatives. My mother sat at the head chair, cold and silent. I played host. Vi was carrying her child, avoiding eye contact. I nodded, didn't bow, didn't smile. When dinner was served, Hi stood up to open. Thank you everyone for coming. Today, let's put the past behind us and start fresh. I set my chopsticks down, looked around the table. Start fresh. I asked, what past are we referring to? Silence. Vi frowned, mother looked away. Hi swallowed. Well, the misunderstandings recently. I nodded, pulled a thick envelope from my jacket, and placed it on the table. This is the house title. I've held it for 2 years to prevent it from being lost. It's now transferred back. As of today, I'm no longer related to it. I turned to Vi. I've paid for 2 more months of daycare. After that, it's your responsibility. Then to Hi. The debt from the savings club, I won't be backing you anymore. Talk to them yourself. I spoke slowly, clearly, without shaking. Each word struck the dinner table like a hammer. On the very table I used to sit silently at, eating meals they said I was lucky to even join. I stood up. I'm not here to reclaim a place. I'm here to return everything that bound me to this family. From now on, if you need me, come for me, not for my wallet. I walked out. The night outside was cool. Light rain fell. I had no raincoat, but I didn't feel cold. I didn't feel alone, because just then, a message came through. From a distant cousin who hadn't attended any family gatherings in 5 years. Just 5 words. I went through that too. Mai and I met again at a small cafe by the Hatan River. She was just the same, short hair, bright eyes, and a light voice capable of softening the hardest thoughts in me. I thought you moved overseas, I said. No, I just left the family. We sat there for nearly 2 hours. Not much about pain, just scattered pieces that finally clicked into place. Mai used to live with her aunt, Vi's mother, and was exploited for every bit of her paycheck to raise her cousin. When she refused, they called her ungrateful, kicked her out, and no one checked on her since. I listened, and for the first time, I felt I wasn't alone. 3 months later, we started this Sunday dinner group, made up of people like Mai and me, who were once pushed aside. A single mother cousin, kicked out when pregnant. A youngest son who was denied college so the eldest could get married. One by one, we came together, not owing, not demanding, just sharing and listening. A full year after my mother's birthday party, I returned to the same bakery. I ordered the exact cake, 2 tiers, strawberry mousse, buttercream, white and yellow flowers. This time, I brought it to our Sunday dinner. We lit candles. No one sang happy birthday, but someone made a toast. To those who cherish one another without any strings attached. I cut the cake, took the first bite. Not bitter, not overly sweet, just right, like the peace I once thought I could never have. No one left their family. We just learned to build a new one founded on truth and shaped by kindness. That evening, after our Sunday dinner ended, I sat alone in Mai's small kitchen. She was tidying the living room, while I held a hot cup of tea, gazing at the empty chair across from me. That chair once belonged to my mother, back when I still believed she could change. But then I realized, not everyone is ready to abandon the habit of leaning on others, and even fewer have the courage to face themselves. The empty chair remained. No one sat in it. No one replaced it. But I no longer felt sad about that. I just whispered to myself, I'll leave it empty, not because someone is missing, but to remind myself that real love cannot be purchased with bank transfers. I set the tea down, stepped out onto the balcony. The sea breeze blew in from afar, salty and gentle. Tomorrow is Sunday, and I know, once again, there will be a cake being sliced by people who never needed me to pay for anything on their behalf, except for one thing, my presence. A month after that evening in Mai's kitchen, I began spending more time in the small-town library near my office. It was quiet, sparsely lit, and always smelled faintly of old paper and salt air. There, I found myself returning to a long-forgotten habit, journaling. At first, I wrote small fragments, observations, feelings, then memories, and eventually, the truth, not the kind I'd emailed or written in ledgers, but the kind that comes quietly when no one is watching. I wrote about the time I fell off my bike at age 8 and cried not from pain, but because no one came to check on me. I wrote about the one birthday I tried to plan for myself at 17, only to end up eating instant noodles alone when everyone forgot. I wrote about the moment I first realized I could love deeply and how easily that love was dismissed. I filled 3 notebooks in 4 weeks. Meanwhile, our Sunday dinners continued to grow. People brought dishes, stories, sometimes even friends. No one asked where you'd been. No one judged how much you brought. The table expanded, not with wood, but with chairs that kept being added. One evening, a girl named Lynn came. She was soft-spoken, barely 23, a coworker of Mai's. She had a hollow sadness in her eyes that I recognized instantly. It turned out her father hadn't spoken to her since she decided to drop out of medical school. At the end of that dinner, as people laughed and cleaned and poured leftover soup into plastic containers, Lynn stayed behind. She asked if she could help wipe the table. I nodded. We didn't speak, but when she left, she whispered, "Thank you for letting me sit here." It hit me then that sometimes healing doesn't arrive in grand gestures or perfect words. Sometimes it's just a chair that's waiting for you, without question. In April, Mai got engaged. Her fiancé, Kwa, was a quiet, thoughtful man who brought homemade soy milk to our dinners and always remembered everyone's names. He proposed during a Sunday gathering, after dessert, with no ring, just a folded poem and a smile. "She saved me," he said. Mai smiled back. We saved each other. The room applauded. Even Lynn. I was asked to officiate. I said yes. For the first time in decades, I stood in front of people not to justify my worth, but to celebrate someone else's joy. I wore the same white shirt, but it felt different this time. Lighter. The ceremony was held in a small garden behind a cafe. We strung lights overhead. People brought plants instead of gifts. Someone played guitar. Someone else read a quote from a book I once loved and forgot. We ate. We toasted. We danced. And I realized, this is what family feels like, not a bloodline, but a lifeline. After the wedding, Mai and Kwam moved into a new apartment. They hosted the Sunday dinner twice that month. I brought a pot of braised pork and eggs. Lynn brought coconut flan. Someone's cousin brought a new friend who turned out to be an amateur magician. We spent 10 minutes watching him pull coins out of our ears. At one point, someone asked if we should give our group a name. Mai said, "Why name it? The people matter more than the banner." We all agreed. 2 months later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From my mother. It simply read, "I heard about the wedding. I wasn't invited. I understand. I hope you're well. I don't expect anything. I just wanted to say, I think of you. Often." I folded the letter. Placed it in a drawer. I didn't reply, but for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness. Just space. And perhaps that was enough. It's been 18 months now. Our Sunday group still meets. Some faces have changed. Some have returned. There are new stories. New silences. But the same rule remains. Show up as you are. Bring what you can. Stay as long as you like. And always, always, leave a chair empty, just in case someone finally finds the courage to sit down. In early autumn, Lynn came to the Sunday dinner carrying a cloth-bound notebook. She placed it in the center of the table and said nothing. It stayed there untouched until dessert. Then someone asked, "What is this?" Lynn hesitated, then said, "It's for stories. Ours. The ones we don't know how to say out loud yet." By the end of that night, the first page had 3 entries. A poem, a memory, a drawing of a door with no handle. It became a ritual. At every gathering, someone added something. A quote, a sketch, a confession. There were no rules, no dates, no names. We called it The book we never meant to write. Winter came. The dinners grew warmer, cozier, sometimes even crowded. We borrowed heaters. We stacked extra cushions. Lynn brought her guitar more often. And one evening, when she played a song none of us knew, we didn't ask what it was. We just listened. There was a strange beauty in not needing to understand everything. One rainy Sunday, a stranger showed up. A woman in her late 50s, damp and hesitant. She stood at the door with an umbrella and a folded invitation in her hand. I welcomed her in without asking questions. She turned out to be a friend of someone's coworker. Her husband had passed. Her son had cut contact. She said she just wanted to hear voices that weren't on TV. She didn't speak much that night. But before she left, she opened the notebook and wrote 5 words. Thank you for the noise. Eventually, someone suggested we print copies of the notebook. Not to publish, just to share. Quietly, among ourselves. I volunteered to help. I stayed late after work, scanned pages, organized files. I found typos, tear stains, flower petals pressed between poems. I copied them exactly. Nothing was edited. We printed 12 books. One for each regular. Bound them in soft fabric. No titles on the covers. I mailed one to my mother. She never replied. But 3 weeks later, I received a package. Inside, a photo of her, taken decades ago, with a young me in her lap, both of us smiling. And a note. I don't know what to say, but I'm still reading. Sometimes healing doesn't come as closure. Sometimes it arrives like a rainstorm that leaves everything washed, but not explained. And that's enough.